Are you about to miss out on one of the most important lessons in political influence? It's something that's shaping how we see leaders every day and how we judge them too. It's called the law of perception, an idea from marketing experts Ries and Jack Trout. This law says that people don't act on what's true, they act on what they think is true. And if you don't understand it, you're letting others control how you see everything from brands to politicians to wars. Today, we're going to break it down with a real life example, Kamala Harris's campaign. But let's start with the law of perception. Some background here. Think of it like this. Imagine you're picking a new restaurant. Two places come up. One has a polished website with 5-star reviews, and the other is plain. Most of us would go with the place that looks better, right? And this is the power of perception. In business, this is how brands win. Take Apple. People see Apple not just as a tech brand, but as the tech brand, the cutting edge, high quality one. Whether it's true or not, Apple has mastered the perception of being the best. And that perception has become or becomes reality for buyers. But here's where it gets even deeper. The everybody knows principle, the idea that once an opinion becomes widespread, it doesn't even need to be accurate. It just has to stick. Once everybody knows Apple is the best, it's tough for the competitors to change that. Now, let's bring it back to politics and see how this or these principles played out in Kamala Harris's campaign. When Kamala Harris joined the Biden administration, she made history, right? She was Black, South Asian, and the first woman in her role. But right from the start, the law of perception began working against her. Instead of being seen as a strong leader, she was framed as a sidekick, part of Biden's shadow. And not by chance. Her critics spun her role as something symbolic, saying she was more of an accessory than an independent leader. Her past as a DA in California was brought up constantly, not to show her record, but to make her look like an enemy to certain parts of her own base. It was a classic divide and conquer strategy aimed at splitting her supporters. They painted her as tough on crime in ways that hurt Black men, pushing an image that drove a wedge right through her voter base. And though Harris is both Black and South Asian, the public saw her mainly as Black. Her voice, her background at an HBCU, her sorority ties, all of these traits firmly established her as a Black woman in the public eye. And with that identity came expectations. Black voters in particular wanted to see real results, not just representation. They want policies that mean something, investments in education, criminal justice reform, economic equality. They've seen or experienced enough empty promises. But because Kamala joined the ticket through an appointment rather than a primary victory, it raised doubts. Voters began asking, is she here for substance or just optics? Without a clear policy focus on issues specific to the general public, her role seemed more like symbolism than substance. It was as if she was saying, I see you, but not here's what I'm going to do for you. And that right there is how the perception turned. This doubt fed right into larger stereotypes that the public already knew. Everybody knew that women are too emotional for tough roles. Everybody knew that Black women are hard to work with, stereotypes that, while unfair, are not insurmountable or accurate entirely. When Harris stumbled or left certain questions unanswered, by the way, questions that were often Biden's to answer in the first place, she started to look unprepared. It was like seeing someone freeze in a job interview, making you wonder if they're the right fit. This only reinforced the doubts people already had. I want to say the media was mostly positive, giving her the chance to tell her story. But here's the thing, she was stuck in what I call, and you may have seen in another video, a Schrodinger's box. She needed to show she was her own leader, but she was so tightly tied to the Biden administration that she couldn't stand out. And the public didn't see her as independent. They saw her as Biden's continuation. And that made it nearly impossible for her to establish her own leadership style, her own vision. And here's where the everybody knows principle crushed her the hardest. People didn't need reasons to doubt her. They already had them. The public didn't see a powerful leader in the making. They saw a VP boxed into Biden's agenda. So what did the law of perception do to Kamala Harris? It boxed her in from the start. Every time she tried to break out of Biden's shadow, every time she tried to show independence, she ran into the same wall. Everybody knows she's just the continuation of Joe Biden. That perception was everywhere, making it nearly impossible to show who she really was. It's like trying to climb a mountain that gets steeper every step you take. This is what the law of perception can do. It doesn't just decide what brands we buy, it decides who we think is fit to lead. And if we're not careful, everybody knows will keep deciding for us, and we'll miss the chance to see what leaders are truly capable of. Want to dive deeper into how perception shapes today's biggest political players? Click here or here to watch our next video on how the same principles are shaping the careers of emerging leaders worldwide. Don't let everybody knows decide what you know. Click and see for yourself. See you next time on the Relationship Theater. Peace.